Hello. I pulled into my in-laws' driveway with that familiar knot in my stomach, the one that always showed up whenever family gatherings loomed. My wife, Claire, had insisted we come to her father's barbecue. "It'll be good for you to be around everyone," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I stepped out of the car, carrying a six-pack under one arm in the sense that something was off. The smell of grilled meat drifted through the air, laughter spilled across the yard, and folding chairs dotted the lawn. It should have felt warm, inviting. Instead, the moment I walked in, I could tell I didn't belong. Claire was at the serving table, piling brisket and potato salad onto plates. She handed one to her sister, another to her brother, then kept moving down the line. She didn't even look at me. My stomach growled, but I bit my tongue, assuming she'd circle back. But then I heard it, the words that split my world in two. "She's still with him?" her sister asked, taking her plate. Claire didn't hesitate. She leaned in and said, voice sharp but casual, "He was the mistake I made in college. Can't get rid of him." The words hit me like a sucker punch. For a second, I thought I misheard. But then her brother let out a laugh, the kind that comes from deep in the chest, cruel and amused. "Better hurry then," he said. "Heard the locks are being changed tomorrow." My throat tightened. My hands went clammy. I wanted to step forward, demand to know what the hell was going on, but before I could, her father came up behind me. His voice was low, almost kind in its cruelty. "The restraining order and divorce papers are already filed, son." For a moment, time froze. I looked at each of their faces, Claire laughing with her sister, her brother shaking his head in smug delight, her father with that weary, disappointed look like I'd been a burden too long. I nodded once, forcing a tight smile. "Enjoy the food," I said, and then I sat down on the far edge of the yard, away from their circle. My plate remained empty, my chest hollow. I sipped a beer and let their laughter fill the air like smoke, choking but impossible to escape. The barbecue went on around me, but I wasn't there anymore. I was somewhere else, calculating, thinking, trying to stitch together the fragments of betrayal that had just been shoved into my hands. Every instinct screamed at me to storm out, to throw my plate against the ground, to demand answers. But instead, I played it calm. I listened. I observed. Because if they thought I was going to beg or break down right there on the lawn, they had no idea who they were dealing with. That night, I lay awake beside Claire. She slipped under the covers like nothing had happened, scrolling her phone before drifting off to sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning. My wife thought she was rid of me. My in-laws thought I was weak. The truth was, they had no clue. The next morning, as the sun bled through the blinds, I was already dressed, a duffel bag packed, and my plan in motion. Claire was still asleep when I walked out the door for the last time. By afternoon, my phone buzzed. One message, then another, then a flood. Claire, her sister, her father, all desperate, all panicked. And that was when the game really began. The first buzz came mid-morning. "Where are you? We need to talk." Another followed seconds later. "I think you misunderstood what was said yesterday. Please don't do anything rash." Then came the third. "Let's be reasonable. Let's sit down like men and work this out." I stared at the screen, the motel lamp casting a dim glow over the table where my phone sat face up. Reasonable. Like laughing at me in front of an entire yard full of people was reasonable. Like changing the locks without a word was reasonable. I didn't reply. Instead, I set the phone face down and listened to the silence of the room. The hum of the old air conditioner. The faint drip from the bathroom faucet. Silence had weight. Silence was power. The duffel bag at my feet wasn't just filled with shirts and socks. Inside were the things I'd been collecting for months: statements, copies of paperwork, screenshots of conversations I'd stumbled across when she left her laptop open. I hadn't known what I was preparing for back then, just a feeling in my gut. Now, sitting in that room, it all made sense. By noon, the tone of the messages shifted. "Please, just come home." It didn't mean anything. I was stressed, I lashed out. Then, a longer one. "Don't ghost me. I'm scared. You're scaring me." Another buzz. "If you love me, you'll answer. If not, I'll know you gave up." That one almost made me laugh. After the way she called me a mistake in front of her family, love was the word she reached for. The silence ate at them more than any angry reply could. They expected me to blow up, to shout, to come pounding at the door, demanding an explanation. But the absence, that was worse. The absence left them no control. By mid-afternoon, calls replaced the texts. Straight to voicemail when I didn't pick up. The recordings started calm, then cracked around the edges. Please, just come home. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it. Dad was pushing me. They twisted my words. Don't do this. Don't shut me out. Her voice broke near the end, and I could picture her pacing the kitchen, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. Each word was another confirmation. She wasn't apologizing because she loved me. She was panicking because she realized the leash she thought she had on me had snapped. That night, the motel felt colder than it should have. Neon from the vacancy sign flickered through the blinds, painting the room in pulses of pink and red. I sat in the hardback chair, scrolling through the flood of messages piling up on my phone. Then came the email. No greeting, no explanation, just a subject line. You deserve to know. Inside was a single attachment. I opened it. There she was, at a bar, leaning close to a man I'd never seen before. His hand rested on her thigh, her head thrown back in laughter. The timestamp read 2 weeks ago. I leaned back slowly, the photo burning into my mind. The barbecue wasn't the beginning. That was just the part where they slipped and let me see. The real story, the one they thought they'd buried, was already weeks old. And tomorrow, I'd start digging. Sleep never came that night. I sat in that motel chair, staring at the photo until the glow of my phone dimmed on its own. Her face frozen in laughter, the stranger's hand resting like he owned her. Every time I blinked, it burned deeper into the back of my eyes. Morning light crept through the blinds, thin and gray, and with it came more messages. A dozen in a row. Some begging, some angry. A roller coaster of guilt and threats. You don't just walk away like this. I said I was sorry. If you think you're punishing me, you're wrong. You're only making it worse. Come home before you regret this. The rhythm of desperation was predictable. First denial, then bargaining, then rage. I knew the cycle. I'd seen it in addicts, in liars, in people trying to cover their tracks. And my wife, the woman who swore she loved me, was playing all 3 parts at once. But that photo, it wasn't about emotions. It was evidence. Proof that while she was spinning her story about stress, her father filing papers, her brother cracking jokes about changing locks, she was sitting at some bar with a stranger's hand on her thigh. I needed a name. So I went back through the pile I'd already been building. Credit card statements, bank withdrawals, her work dinners that didn't line up with anything on her calendar. It didn't take long. A charge from a place called Harper's Taproom, timestamped the same night as the photo. 2 bar tabs, one on her card, one on someone else's. I pulled up the place on my phone. A low-lit dive on the east side, a spot we'd never been together. Perfect for secrecy. By noon, I was parked across the street. The sign buzzed, letters half burned out. Even from the truck, I could smell grease and stale beer. I waited, watched. People came and went, mostly regulars by the look of it. But then he showed up. The man from the photo. He looked exactly the way men like him always do. Button-down shirt unbuttoned too far, cologne heavy enough to reach the street. That smug walk like the whole world owed him something. He strolled inside like he owned the place. I didn't follow. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of him. His face, his car, the plates. A breadcrumb trail he didn't even know he was dropping. Another buzz. Another voicemail. Her voice again, cracked and raw. I can't stop thinking about you. Please, just tell me where you are. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Just don't disappear on me. Her words were almost convincing. Almost. But the timing told the truth. She didn't know I had the photo. She didn't know I was watching the man who thought he was invisible. I leaned back in the truck, calm settling over me for the first time in days. I wasn't chasing her anymore. I wasn't fighting for scraps of respect in a house where I was nothing but an anchor she wanted to cut loose. No, now I was the one pulling strings. Tomorrow, she'd feel it. The weight of her own silence when mine swallowed her whole. And by the time she realized what I was doing, it would already be too late. I stayed in that truck for almost an hour, watching the man drift in and out of Harper's like he was on stage and the world was his audience. He laughed too loud, slapped backs like he was everyone's best friend, bought shots for strangers who barely looked his way. He thrived on being noticed. That was his first mistake. When he finally stumbled out toward his car, I had what I needed. License plate, make, model, even the little dent on his rear bumper. People like him thought they were invisible, but they always left a trail. and I was good at following trails. I didn't confront him. Not yet. There's no satisfaction in screaming in a parking lot. No power in swinging first. No, the real damage comes from patience. From letting someone think they're untouchable, right up until the moment they find out you've been standing behind them the whole time. Back at the motel, I dumped the photos into a folder on my laptop. Labeled it simply, The End. Every file, every screenshot, every receipt went in. Not for her. Not for him. For me. A reminder that I wasn't crazy, I wasn't paranoid, and I wasn't the mistake she could laugh about over potato salad. By evening, the messages were frantic. Answer me. Please. I'll explain everything. Don't make me beg. You're scaring me. Where are you? Just tell me you're safe. And then, if you wanted out, you should have just said it. You don't get to disappear like this. That's cruel. There it was, the flip. The mask sliding. Suddenly, I was the villain, the cruel one, the man abandoning her. A performance, nothing more. I could practically hear her pacing, rehearsing which version of herself to send me next. Victim, lover, threat. She cycled through them all, but none of them worked. I let the silence stretch. The silence was my weapon. By the time the sun dropped, another unknown number popped up. No text, no voicemail. Just a call that rang and rang. I didn't answer, but when I checked later, there it was, another message waiting. A voice I didn't recognize, low and smug. You don't know who you're messing with. Stay out of it. The man from the bar. He had my number. I replayed the message 3 times, listening to the arrogance drip from every word. He wasn't warning me. He was marking territory, the way a stray dog pisses on a fence post. The kind of man who thinks threats are the same thing as power. I leaned back in the chair, phone in my hand, and smiled for the first time in days. If he had my number, then he knew I existed. Which meant he was nervous. Which meant the ground under their little secret wasn't nearly as solid as they thought. Perfect. Because nervous men make mistakes. And tomorrow, I'd be waiting for the next one. The next morning, I woke to a storm of notifications. Dozens of unread texts. Missed calls stacked like bricks. The desperation was louder now, less polished. I can't sleep. Please, just tell me what you want. Don't do this to me. You don't understand what's at stake. You're ruining everything. That last one stopped me. Ruining everything. Not ruining us. Not ruining our marriage. Just everything. The slip of someone who wasn't thinking about love, but about plans unraveling. About secrets exposed. I let the phone buzz against the nightstand while I showered, shaved, and dressed like it was any other day. The silence was killing her more than any confrontation ever could. She wanted me to scream, to demand, to lash out so she could spin me as the unstable one. But quiet? Quiet was unpredictable. Quiet left her stranded in her own head. By noon, I drove past the house. Not to go in. Just to look. Curtains drawn. Her car in the driveway. I imagined her inside, pacing, checking the windows every time a car rolled by. She was waiting for me to appear, waiting for the scene she'd been rehearsing. But I stayed in the truck and kept rolling. Later that afternoon, the unknown number came back. This time it didn't bother with threats. Just 5 words, clipped and sharp. She's not worth the trouble. I saved the voicemail, the same way I saved the first one. His arrogance was a gift, proof that he existed, proof he was tangled up in this. He thought he could scare me off with warnings and smug little phone calls. He had no idea I'd been documenting every step. That night, I got the first crack in her armor. A voicemail, softer than all the rest. No edge, no performance. Just her voice, small and breaking. I made a mistake. I don't want this. Please, I don't want to lose you. For a moment, I almost felt it. Almost let the sound of her sobs pull me back to the man who used to rush to fix everything. But then I pictured her at that barbecue, grinning as she told her sister I was the mistake she couldn't get rid of. I remembered her brother laughing about the locks, her father whispering about the divorce papers. That image was stronger than any tear-streaked plea. The mistake wasn't me. It was her believing I would always absorb the blows. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, duffel open, laptop glowing. The folder, The End, was filling fast. Photos of the man. Voicemails from both of them. Screenshots of her lies. All the threads weaving into one tight net. She thought she'd written the final chapter when she filed the papers and staged her little performance at the barbecue. But all she'd done was hand me the pen. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just be watching. Tomorrow, I'd pull the first thread. I didn't jump in all at once. That's what they expected. A man cornered, lashing out, burning everything down in one violent motion. No, I wanted them to feel it inch by inch, like water rising in a room where the door is locked. The first move was simple. I printed 3 of the photos. Not all of them, just enough. Her at the bar with his hand on her thigh, him leaning too close, the timestamp glowing at the bottom. I slipped each one into a plain envelope, no return address. One went to her office, one to her father's house, one I slid under the front door of our home. By the time I was back in the motel, the storm had begun. The calls came rapid fire. Ring. Hang up. Ring again. I didn't answer. I let them pile into voicemail, and when I finally played them back, the panic was louder than I imagined. What are you doing? You're going to ruin me, us, everything. Take it back. Please, just stop this. Another, harsher. You think this makes you look strong? It makes you look pathetic. Nobody will believe you. And then one I didn't expect. Her father's voice. Low, strained. Son, listen to me. You don't want to drag this through the dirt. Some things are better left buried. Let's talk before this goes too far. Buried. He used that word. Like he knew the truth, had known for longer than I realized, and just hoped I'd roll over like always. I didn't reply. Not to any of them. Instead, I drove back to Harper's taproom that evening, parked in the same spot. And sure enough, the man showed again. Same arrogance, same swagger. Only this time, he looked around more. Nervous. He knew someone was watching. Good. He caught my eye for a split second as he lit a cigarette outside. Maybe it was instinct, maybe paranoia, but I could see it in his face. He knew. He knew the silence on the other end of the line was me. He knew the photos didn't come from nowhere. And that knowledge ate at him. I rolled the window down, let him see me watching, then pulled away without a word. That night, I didn't go straight back to the motel. I drove past our house again. Lights were on in every room. Curtains wide open like she was daring me to come in. A shadow moved back and forth in the kitchen. Pacing, phone pressed to her ear, probably begging anyone who would listen to fix what she broke. I parked half a block down, engine off, and just sat there. Watching. Waiting. Letting her wonder. The text started again around midnight. Shorter now, sharper. What do you want? Is this about money? Just tell me what it'll take to stop. And finally, you win. Just please don't destroy me. I set the phone down, stretched out on the stiff motel mattress, and let the words settle. No, I thought. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about winning. This was about showing her, showing all of them, that the man they laughed at wasn't the one who'd be leaving broken. Tomorrow, the next thread would come loose. And when it did, the whole fabric of her lies would start to tear. Morning came with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The panic, the begging, the threats, all of it meant one thing. They'd lost control. And once people like them lose control, they make mistakes. The next thread I pulled wasn't loud. It wasn't a confrontation in a bar or a screaming match on the lawn. It was quieter, sharper. I emailed a copy of the photo to the man's work. Not to his boss, not to HR, to the general inbox every employee could access. Subject line blank, no message, just the image of him with his hand on another man's wife. I knew how gossip spread. By noon, whispers would be circling like vultures. Then I sat back and waited. Sure enough, by mid-afternoon, the unknown number lit up my phone again. This time the voice wasn't smug. It was angry, desperate. You don't know what you've done. Do you have any idea what this will cost me? Take it back. Delete it. He was unraveling, his perfect little mask slipping. That was all I needed to hear. I hung up without saying a word. Silence was my reply. Meanwhile, the storm at home was growing. Another voicemail, Claire's voice jagged and broken. Why are you doing this? Do you hate me that much? I was stupid, I was weak, but you're destroying both of us. Please, please stop. Every word was a knife. She didn't realize she was twisting into herself. She thought begging would soften me. But all it did was remind me of that barbecue. Her grin as she skipped over me like I wasn't even standing there. Her voice saying I was the mistake she made in college. Her brother laughing. Her father whispering that the papers were already filed. That memory was steel now. Nothing she said could cut through it. By evening, I made my second move. Another envelope slipped under her father's door. This one didn't hold photos. It held copies of the voicemails. His daughter begging. The other man threatening. Her family would hear their perfect Claire stripped bare. Not the victim, not the innocent, but the liar clawing to keep her story from collapsing. And collapse it did. At 10 that night, the calls started coming from her family. First the sister, sobbing, saying they didn't know it had gone this far. Then the father, voice hard, demanding a meeting, saying I was ruining a good woman's life. A good woman. The phrase made me laugh out loud in that empty motel room. Good women don't mock their husbands at cookouts and warm another man's hand under a bar table 2 weeks later. Good women don't plan restraining orders and locks in secret. By midnight, I had 40 missed calls. My silence was louder than any answer I could have given. And when I finally closed my eyes, one thought anchored me. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just be the ghost haunting them. Tomorrow, I'd remind them that I was still very much alive and holding every card. I woke before dawn, the motel room washed in gray. The phone lay silent for the first time in days, like even they had burned out from the frenzy. That silence felt earned, but I knew it wouldn't last. Today would be the end. I didn't rush. I shaved, ironed a shirt, packed the duffel neatly. If they wanted a scene, they wouldn't get it. They'd get calm. They'd get finality. By mid-morning, I was parked half a block from the house again. Curtains wide open. Claire's shadow pacing like a trapped animal. I watched for a moment, then drove on. I had no interest in stepping inside the cage she'd built. Instead, I made my last move. From the laptop bag came a small stack of manila envelopes, each one fat with everything I'd collected: the photos, the credit card charges, the voicemails, the threats. One envelope for her office, one for her family, and one for the man's employer, sealed and addressed directly to HR this time. No messages, no explanations, just the truth, delivered neat and undeniable. By afternoon, the fire started. The calls came in waves, her sister screaming at me, her father demanding I meet him, Claire sobbing so hard her words blurred together. I let them all go to voicemail. Silence again, my last weapon. Then, around 3, the unknown number returned. The other man. His voice wasn't smug anymore. It was broken. You've ruined me. Do you understand that? My job, my reputation, she wasn't worth it. None of this was worth it. Click. I saved that message too, though I didn't need to. His defeat was already echoing in my head. By evening, I drove one last time past the house. The lights were off now, blinds drawn. No pacing shadows. No performance. Just a hollow box where my life used to be. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove until the city shrank in the rear view, until the phone buzzed itself into silence, until the weight of it all slid off my shoulders. The road stretched out clean in front of me, and for the first time in years, I felt it. Freedom. They thought I'd break at a barbecue, that I'd beg at a locked door, that I'd fade under the weight of their whispers. But I hadn't broken. I'd watched, waited, and then I made my move. Now, their world was burning, and mine was just beginning. Bye-bye.